I love Half-Life. As a series, it's been instrumental in developing so many aspects of my passion for gaming. Online communities, modding, dizzying hype and crushing disappointments. It's all there encapsulated by that lambda symbol. So after having the thrill of actually being in City 17 for Half-Life Alyx, I wanted more. Not only did I want to play through the original Half-Life games in VR, but I wanted to play through them in co-op, and I wanted the experience to be as close to a modern VR title as I could get it. So, did I succeed? Kind of. Was it worth it? Yes? This is the journey from this to this. As well as some of the issues that I faced along the way, so that you can decide for yourself whether or not it's worth your time. So let's get into it.
We've assured the administrator that nothing will go wrong.
To get this to work, you're going to need a couple of games installed. But before I go into this, I just want to stress again that this is not a flawless experience. I highly recommend you watch through the problems section of this video before laying down any money, as I'm sure some of the issues will be a deal breaker for some people. With that said, the games you need to have installed are as follows. Garry's Mod, Half-Life 2, Half-Life Source, Half-Life Deathmatch Source, and all these games need to be mounted in Garry's Mod. Once you've got all those installed, it's time to subscribe to the various add-ons that make all of this possible. For ease of access, I've compiled them all into a collection that I'll link in the description. This collection contains all the add-ons needed for both Half-Life 1 and 2 co-op VR, because there's quite a lot of overlap. So there's definitely some superfluous files floating around in there, but I'm too lazy to sift through and separate them to save a couple of megabytes of data, you know? I also want to mention that I have not worked on any of these add-ons. They were all created by people much more talented than me. The bits of scripting I've done to mash things together were only possible because I was standing on the shoulders of, well, if not giants, then certainly people who are abnormally tall. So with that out of the way, let's press on. I'm not going to give a full tutorial on how to set up Garry's Mod VR, because there are already a dozen or so videos explaining how to do just that. Suffice to say that you need to read through the info on the add-on page, then download and install the file from Github, and make sure your Garry's Mod is set to the development branch. After that, you're very nearly done. In fact, if you're not fussed about having interactive VR weapons, or want to be surprised by all the jankiness, you could close this video and host a game right now. We actually played through over half of the game like this before I decided to try and add VR weapons. We had a lot of fun playing it this way, and for the most part it works pretty well. Just make sure you tick the World Models box while loading the VR mod.
Who is responsible for this mess?
First is that some of the default weapons aren't accurate in VR, it's just not what they were designed for. And while most can still be used if you get your eye in or enable a laser sight, some, like the Python, are basically a write-off. Others, like the crossbow and hive hand, fire where you're looking instead of where they're pointing, and the less said about the glue-on gun the better. There's a small array of weaponry that just isn't worth picking up or spawning for yourself, which brings me to the next problem. So, the Half-Life 1 campaign add-on we're using has added respawns, which is great. It would be frustrating to die early in a level and have to watch your friends have fun completing it without you. When you die, you drop all the weapons you are holding in these little green capsules and respawn with a crowbar and a pistol. It's not a bad system in theory, but it has two fundamental flaws. Firstly, if you die by falling into radioactive goo or an inaccessible pit, which isn't an unlikely scenario, all your weapons are gone. They're just gone, deal with it. Secondly, sometimes you don't spawn with the pistol and crowbar, which leaves you totally defenseless while you try to retrace your steps to grab your gear. Now, there is a menu where the admin can give themselves weapons, and then a separate menu where you can use the F keys to give your teammates your weapons and ammo. But these menus don't really work in VR, so sorting that out at the start of every level or fall death is awkward. The reason I've put these two at the top of the list is that they're both somewhat fixed by the addition of VR weapons, but they're worth mentioning for those who don't want to take that step. One of the first things you'll notice is that standing on moving scenery is slightly shaky, and you'll usually get vibrated towards the edge of whatever it is you're travelling on. While this is annoying, it doesn't affect platforming too much if you're ready for it. It also doesn't seem to happen to the vehicles that you control directly, such as the cart in Honor Rail, but that comes with its own issues that I'll get to shortly. Vents. There's lots of them. You'll spend more time crawling through vents than an agoraphobic Bruce Willis. But sometimes the vent covers are invisible and indestructible, which can hamper your progress somewhat. Luckily, the fix for this is very simple. Just stand up. For some reason, you can see and destroy the vent covers if your head is clipped through the wall. When you do this, your character model can temporarily disappear for your teammates, but that's a small price to pay for the sweet privilege of vent travel. This is less of an issue as it is just learning the method. Once on the ladder, you just need to hold your hands in the direction you want to go, but try not to look around too much while moving, as it can sometimes throw you off in the direction you're looking. Some people find this easier than others. It's actually a similar technique to using the long jump later on. Just lead with your hands. There is no VR controller binding for moving these cots forward or backwards, so once you've activated them, you're going to need to use a W and S key on your keyboard. As previously mentioned, using keyboards while in VR is awkward enough, so imagine trying to do it whilst under fire. It can work okay if you're playing with a friend and have a designated driver, but I imagine playing this section alone to be hellish. Sometimes you'll get caught on something, or you'll find an environmental obstacle that VR makes it impossible to get past. When this happens, simply open the console, activate SV cheats, and then turn on noclip. Sorted. Like the ladders, this is more of a heads up than a problem. After creating a server, there's an option to scale the difficulty based on how many people are playing. Most of the time, this seems like it works as intended. But on the higher difficulties, certain boss fights become more of a chore than a challenge. More than once, we started to think a section was bugged after throwing a ridiculous amount of firepower at it and getting nowhere. Eventually though, persistence always paid off. My advice here is to just experiment with it, and if you get to a section with a seemingly unkillable boss, try turning off the scaling or turn down the difficulty until you're past it. So those are the main problems. It's not an exhaustive list, but it should prepare you for the worst of them. I want to congratulate you on making it this far. You're clearly very committed to the co-op VR Half-Life experience. As a quick reward before moving on to the VR guns section, here's a fun game you can play with your friends. First, remember not to mention that it's possible to change your player model. Then, just wait until you're near some NPCs, and out of your friend's eye line, to become a scientist. After that, all you need to do is act like a bot and see how long it takes for your friend to figure it out. I guarantee it won't take them as long as me, but I'm what the kids would call a lame brain! Where have you gone? Where are you? Where are you? Are you in the vents?
Not yet, no.
I can't see you yet.
Weird.
You can see me though.
20%.
Yeah. How I can make you visible.
Power 30%.
Just gotta open your eyes, bro.
Maybe if I die again, kill myself in the water. Still can't see you anywhere.
It's weird.
10%.
Maybe reset my view. It'd be nice if I knew where you were, so I could see if I could see you, you know?
I'm right beside you, buddy.
Or did it just kill you?
Maybe?
No, I was just thinking, I mean, if we can't see each other, is there much point playing?
I can see you.
Are you a scientist? Did you change your model?
The scientist this whole time!
You son of a bitch!
I can't believe you got fooled. It's really hard to keep pretending to be a scientist following you.
What really gets me is that I ticked the allow custom model box while setting the server up. So yeah.
Lame brain! I'm not sure it would work on this species. You're welcome to try.
So now it's VR weapon time. And getting them working is as easy as following the link in the description to my GitHub page, download the files and extract them to where the README advises, then just make sure the world models box is unticked in the VR mod and you're good to go. Why did I give this its own section of the video, you ask? Well, I wanted to take a bit of time to go over why I've made some of the choices that I've made, how you can customize the experience for yourself, and what problems using the VR weapons can cause. Before we get into it, I'd just like to say that this is the first time I've ever scripted with Lua, and my process was to basically just hack bits of code together until it nearly did what I wanted it to. I'm sure there's better and more efficient ways of doing all of this, so feel free to improve and redistribute these scripts. I just want the best Half-Life VR experience possible. With that said, we're nearly done, so let's just power through this.
Yes, this all looks nominal.
You may have noticed that in some clips I'm using a VR-ready MP5, and in others I'm using a VR version of the MP7 from Half-Life 2. This is because although the MP5 is stunningly modelled and fun to use, its alternate fire cycles through full auto, single shot mode, and for reasons I can't fathom, safety mode. I wouldn't have much of a problem with this, except for safety mode. Seriously, why? But it's at the expense of the grenade launcher, which to my mind is an invaluable piece of Half-Life kit, so I replaced it with an SMG that has a functioning one. Similarly, the Black Mesa VR shotgun and Python have been lovingly crafted to a very high standard, but for some reason they weren't accepting any of the ammo I was trying to give them, and often the Half-Life 2 versions would just appear in our inventories alongside them anyway. So in the end, I just used the Half-Life 2 ones. This is probably down to my lack of scripting skills, but the two weapons are similar enough for me not to care too much about it. Aside from that, grenades are a bit tricky to throw accurately, and I found that the 2D versions of the Half-Life 2 grenades were easiest to use, so that's why they're in there. But that's about it. Everything else is either its Half-Life 2 VR equivalent, or the most functional 2D model that I could find. The only gun I couldn't find a working version for was the previously mentioned glue-on gun, so I replaced it with just more rocket launcher ammo. If you want to use alternate guns or items in your game, all you need to do is go to the Lua files you downloaded from my GitHub, open them in Notepad and replace all the weapon entity names with your desired weapons. Don't forget to change the ammo types too if need be, or you'll really struggle to kill anything.
We tried to warn them.
The main problem with the VR weapons is that for some reason on certain levels it starts you with a crazy amount of ammo. This might be what you're after, but if that's the case then, well...
You are completely wrong.
Half-Life is a survival horror game, you're not meant to have that much ammo. If you find yourself in this awkward position, all you need to do is find a quiet, out-of-the-way place and kill yourself. The issue only seems to happen at the start of levels, so when you respawn you should find that you have an appropriate amount of ammo. If you don't like the amount of ammo I've given you, you can change it to whatever you like in the Give Glock Lua file. The second problem is that your guns will never be loaded when you first spawn. This is mostly fine as you do feel like a badass while loading them, but it can get a bit frustrating on sections where you die a lot. There is also occasionally an issue where the first ammo that you grab from your inventory acts all floaty and weird. You can just drop it and pick it up again, it should be fine, but I advise loading the shotgun first as it's less annoying to lose a single shell than a whole clip should anything go wrong. The last problem we came across was that occasionally switching weapons would cause our VR headsets to bug out. This isn't represented well by the footage, but it's highly uncomfortable. It took us quite a long time to figure out that the best fix for this is just to scroll your mouse wheel. So yeah. And that's it, you're ready to play. You may remember at the start of the video I was hesitant to say if all the effort was worth it. But this was more of a warning to people that it isn't a AAA experience. For me, it was totally worth it. I'd have gladly paid to play through this, warts and all. But as I've previously said, I'm a sucker for Half-Life. If you are too, then you owe it to yourself to try it, especially because you probably already own all the prerequisites. So go enjoy causing a resonance cascade with your friends, laugh at the ridiculous bugs and problems you find, and get frustrated when you get squished by a piston for the 5th time. It's all part of the experience. You'd better hurry though, you're running late. And after all...
They're waiting for you, Gordon, in the test chamber.
I want to say a big thank you to the creators of all the add-ons who made this possible. Their names should be scrolling down the side of your screen now. Go and show them some appreciation because they're the real heroes of this story. Likewise, thank you to all the people who made guides and forum posts related to this. I wasn't originally planning on making this video, so I didn't really keep track of all the information I came across, but I'll try and find as many as I can and post links to them in the description. And another big thank you to my friend Badluck. You were the one who introduced me to Half-Life way back when we were kids, so it was a genuine pleasure to complete it together. And lastly, thank you for watching. I'll catch you next time.
Push.
To choose.